My name is James Fife for RP Visual Solutions, and today we're going to go over a detailed video on how to install the brand new Wallmate Universal 64 mount system. The mount system itself, you'll see, is going to be comprised of 2 horizontal bars and 2 vertical bars. It can mount onto any of the Wallmate back boxes, so the 16B, 32B, or 32 Max B, and it can hold up to 300 pounds. It's really meant to accommodate any display that has an offset visa pattern, holes that aren't centered, or if you just need a little bit of adjustment for a box that might have been missed, maybe it's too far left, right, up, down. So without further ado, we'll get into installing this thing. So when you're installing the universal mount, one of the things you have to consider is where your box is relative to where your display is going to be. The mount itself is actually made to be very flexible. If you look at the horizontal bars, there's a duplicate set of holes 3.9 inches offset from one another to allow you to mount it at a centered position, or you can actually mount the bar completely offset so you get an additional 3.9 inches of shift to one side or to the other side. So I'm going to mount this one centered because we are going to have another display next to it, and we'll get this thing going. For the top one, you can start by loosely putting in a nut and a bolt into the holes you need. And don't tighten it because you can drop and hang, but for the bottom one, you will need to bolt that in as you go. Just loosely in there so they're nice and loose. You can drop and hang it on. You can open the mount and use the opening lock, which is just basically using a screwdriver through the X-arm to hold it open, and then start on the bottom, and then you can tighten everything all at the same time. Then you can just reach through the X-arm and just loosely thread that on. There you go, and those are all loose. So now what I'll do is I'll go through and I will tighten and snug everything up for the 2 verticals. We want to take and actually mount the vertical bars onto the back of the display at the height that we actually need to have that on there. We're going to have the display fairly centered, so we're just going to mount the vertical bars to allow that to be centered, and we'll get that going right now. We've moved ahead and we've actually placed the display face down on a soft cloth on the table. We ended up measuring the display, and we know that the holes are actually closer to the bottom than to the top of the display. The other part that we have is the back of the display where the mounting holes are is actually closer to the front of the display than the bottom, and the bottom has a kick out. And that's becoming more common these days, but it does need a spacer kit that we can get for that. So we're gonna get a spacer kit, and we're gonna install these arms onto the display. Once we have it up, if the box or the universal kit is not perfectly level, before we mount this on, because you won't be able to see it, we can actually use the cam, which actually allows you to get a fine amount of adjust, and actually moves this piece up and down, giving you an infinite amount of adjustment. It actually moves about 7 millimeters up from one point down, and then the spacing on the holes is 6.25 millimeters, meaning that you can actually go between all holes all the way down and have the display end up anywhere in between. If you only move one arm up and down, that basically gives you rotation. If you move both arms, that gives you finite height adjustment. So you can actually get all of your fine adjust from your universal mount. All right, so I've installed 3 of the 4 locations, but I want you to see the other one. We ended up having to use 2 1/4-inch spacers on this display because of the offset on the back here. So you just put that over top, and then take your screw and attach your display, then tighten up all the bolts, and we'll get this thing mounted. All right, so now I've got Ileana here from our marketing department helping us, and we're going to take this display and put it up. It's just a drop and hang onto the arms for now, and then we'll put the locks on afterwards. Okay, and that's it. It's mounted. Once you get it up there, you can actually slide it side to side once you figure out where you want to have it, and then we'll install the locks. And you can take the lock with the included bolt and the nut, and you just install it on the back of the arm so that the arm itself can't pull forward, because right now if this was to be bumped upwards, the display could potentially fall. And we don't want that, so we'll get the locks installed. All right, so now we have our display mounted onto our Wallmate 16 with the universal mount. And all we have to do now is just pull out the X-arm lock, and we can close the display, and we're all done. I'm James Fife for RP Visual Solutions, and that's how you install a universal mount system. Thank you very much.